Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Menachem Creditor. It's my honor to serve as scholar in residence and rabbi for UJA Federation of New York. We bring you Torah and music, blessing, and community every day. We've been doing so since March 18th, 2020. Today it is February 24th, 2025. That is just about 5 years since we began this broadcast. It is broadcast 1247. It is day 507 of war. It is also the third anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. There's a lot for us to be talking about, but most of all, it's good to see all of you. Ben and Alexis, Susie, Bensi, Jonathan, Shush, Rosa, Peter, and Anna, good morning. All of you. It's so good to see everyone. I hope that you and yours are safe and well. Deborah and Linda, Boker Tov. Hi, Patricia. Sharon, nice to see you. Let's take a moment greeting each other. We'll sing a bracha and we'll learn some Torah. Debbie, it's good to see you. Hi, Arlene. Welcome, welcome, everybody. Jerry and Lydia, Janice and Adele, Boker Tov. Hi, Susan. Let's take a breath, sing a bracha, learn some Torah. Andrew and Dale, Amy and Deborah and Barbara, good to see all of you. Okay, here we go. Hi, Jacqueline. Good morning, everyone. Amy, today would have been your mother's 97th birthday. May her memory be for a blessing. Happy birthday to her. Sending you lots of love and comfort. Hi, my love. Neshama's here, everybody. Now I know I get to teach Torah and smile with my deepest self. And it's helpful to have that kind of joy because it has to coexist with so much other emotionality. Friends, I want to share what today is in multiple ways and invite you to an extra broadcast today at 3:30. I'll talk about that in a moment. Today is broadcast 1247. It is day 507 since October 7th. It is more than 500 years of hell for so many of our beloved family members. We gathered in the hundreds in Central Park. UJA helped convene with the Hostages and Missing Families Forum, a gathering of family members and Israelis in New York and the Jewish community and allies, including elected officials, to show up and demand the return of the rest of the hostages. We are not whole until we are whole, and we have the dignified burial of some and the beginning of excruciating healing for others. This past weekend, we went through a process that defies description, and I want to say out loud how grateful I am to the community that we are for sharing hearts and comfort amidst the agony, to know that we can still find ways to learn and grow and sing and have Shabbat as we experience the excruciating recognition that Ariel and Kfir Bibas were murdered by the bare hands of terrorists who abducted them and their mother Shiri, with whom we had an additional excruciating process. And I say we, and I cannot imagine for their immediate family, especially Ariel and Kfir's father, Shiri's husband, Yarden, who was only released from his own 500-day captivity a week ago. To learn for that, to learn of all of that, and have to wait for the re-exchange of Shiri's body. There is no language to describe the cruelty and the hatred of Hamas in an ongoing way. It is so important, friends, for us to begin with a recognition that our hearts are shattered, and the world, if it does not acknowledge why, is blind, willfully so. And so the best I can say, and the only thing I can really say, is what Valerie has said, Hineni. We are here. We will never not be here. But the barbarous brutality committed on October 7th and after October 7th by human beings who clearly have forgotten the divine image within them and certainly don't recognize the divine image in others. Here we are, friends. That's where we begin. Oded Lifshitz of blessed memory, one of the founders of Kibbutz Nir Oz, who planted a beautiful and renowned cactus garden that he tended to, and now we will tend to. His grandson Daniel, who I've met many times, he's now bereft to know that his grandfather was murdered. His grandmother, Yocheved, was also abducted on October 7th, released 50 days in, and was ceaseless in fighting for the release of her husband. And the degradation that their bodies were treated with upon release, the exchange between Hamas and the Red Cross, the celebratory songs tells us everything we need to know about the enemies we face. There is nothing good to say about that moment, except for the fact that it gives their families the chance to finally bury them with kavod, with respect, and for us to continue our work. Today is many things. Today we also get to welcome home Avera and Hisham, two Israelis, Hisham, an Israeli Arab, and Avera, an Israeli Jew, both of whom were abducted, mentally ill human beings crossing over accidentally into Gaza 10 years ago and held in isolation. They were finally freed on Shabbat, but are not able to communicate with their families. Not only have they been suffering mental illness their whole lives, but also the care with which they are now being shown. Please God, it should give them a chance to communicate again. To welcome home Elia and Tal, Omer and Omer Shem Tov, whose mother Shelley founded the Hostages and Missing Families Forum, who has been a champion for the release of all the hostages and remains a champion. To see them be freed, though the context of that horrendous spectacle requires addressing. Omer Shem Tov, these beautiful eyes, forced to kiss the heads of his captors. And I thought that was the worst of it. Right after that, Hamas released a propaganda video from inside of a van right next to the stage, where Eviatar David and Guy Gilboa Dalal were forced to watch the release of other Israelis and to be filmed in their grief-fed lines that they had to say. As Glenda says, there are no words. I will face the Parsha in a moment. But I can't do so in good conscience without championing our dignity and representing and reporting on the indignity. Today is all of that. And we will continue fighting for the freedom and dignity of our sisters and brothers, including proper burial. And we will fight until we don't have to fight. We don't fight because we want to. But it has been made clear to us that Jewish self-determination is a necessity if Jewish dignity is to be a possibility. You and I, friends, are part of something grand, great, and necessary. UJA's response to all of this, response to pure evil, distilled evil, is something we should be proud to be. We are a response in the way that Psalms teaches, Ohave Adonai Sinu Ra. You love God, you must hate evil, which means people must acknowledge, including me, that there is such a thing. And it is a hard thing to acknowledge. I don't say things lightly like this. But we are forced to acknowledge that there is such a thing as evil, and that some people somehow manage to erase the divine image in which they were created. Terrorists have chosen a path that is antithetical to creation. And we will face it and do what we must. Today is also, there's no pivot here. Today is also the 3rd anniversary of Russia's invasion into Ukraine, the assault on Ukraine. In the immediate aftermath, and I mean immediate, UJA's partners on the ground, a network of Jewish nonprofits on the ground in Ukraine and Poland, spun in a heartbeat to become organizations for refugee absorption. In Lublin, the famous yeshiva that Rabbi Morris Shapiro created, the Daf Yomi, Day of Talmud, learning a page of Talmud a day project, became a refugee absorption center. So much so that when Ukrainians ended up in Lublin, just dropped there on buses, people would say, go to the yeshiva, they will help you there. That's who we are. So much so that when a group of rabbis sent by UJA, I was blessed to be part of this group, were on the ground on the border of Poland and Ukraine weeks after the war began, we saw an Israeli flag waving high above the border fence. How did the Israelis get there? Well, it turns out they got there because they went first to be of help. And one of them told me, I've told this story over and over, and I hope that you'll repeat it. A volunteer paramedic, an Israeli, says to me, when I'm at that border, crying my eyes out, watching people walk for their lives, carrying less with them than I brought for a short trip, and that's all they had with them, women and children and the elderly, because men were not allowed and still are not allowed to leave Ukraine because they need to fight. The Israeli paramedic says to me, "אתה יודע, you know, שואלים אותי בבית, they ask me back at home, האם אנחנו בודקים מי יהודי לפני שעוזרים להם? Do you ask who's a Jew before you help them?" And his answer in that moment animates my Jewish soul to this day, is the heart of our work as UJA in the world, and the commitment we make as a faith community of Jews and non-Jews of good conscience, as we continue trying to respond to horrors when they are presented. What was his response? Lamadnu lifnei 80 shana al seleksia, lo osim et zeh. We learned 80 years ago about selections. We don't do that. And the Jewish president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, what a hero. The defense that he has shown, the fire strategy, allyship, and strength, fortitude, for 3 years to defend Ukraine in a war that the world thought Russia would win within 3 days. There are heroes in our midst. I will have opportunity at 3:30 Eastern Time today to sit with my dear friend, Father Kirill Angelov, in his Ukrainian church in Yonkers, New York. He traveled to Israel with us on the first interfaith clergy trip that I helped lead with my Westchester Jewish Council colleague, Elliot Forsheimer, and my UJA colleague, Tali Strom. Father Angelov came with us on his first trip to Israel, and every time we have put out a call since October 7th for friends to stand with us, Father Angelov has been the first to show up with a yellow ribbon on his clerical garb. And we owe friendship back. We owe friendship back. I hope some of you will tune in. I'll be doing it only on Facebook today at 3:30 Eastern Time. I hope that you will be present and show your support the way that we have for 3 years straight through our partners on the ground and our language here at home. I'll end with one short piece of Torah, because that's what I'm supposed to do anyway. Yes, Valerie, I will be live streaming it on UJA's Facebook page at 3:30. Short piece of Torah. It's Parshat Terumah. And in Parshat Terumah, there are dense descriptions of the tabernacle of the Mishkan. And the Mishkan is the portable sanctuary that we built in the desert during our travels between liberation and entering the Promised Land. And I just want to point to one description today. We'll talk more about it tomorrow. The Kruvim, the cherubs, are often described as darling dandies. That's the language of Professor Robert Alter. These, dimpled Renaissance, Raphael and Michelangelo images of these winged baby angels. But actually the Kruvim, the cherubs, are dangerous. They are dragon-like. They're eagles, eagle talons, a lion, and they're mystical figures. And what is important, at least one of the facets that's important, is that the Torah describes the space between the cherubs who are right above the Ark of the Covenant. The space between them is the space where God's voice emanates. God is not in the cherubs, and God is not in the Ten Commandments themselves. Similar to us saying today, God is not in the law, and God is not in an object. Where is God to be heard and found? Between us. Father Angelov is an angel on earth. It is true. You should get to know him. Good person. Beautiful, righteous, good person. Trying to hold his community with strength and love, devotion and comfort. And he has not flinched in showing up for the Jewish community too, because he knows, just like we do, that the image of God is a universal human truth. Anyone who stands in the way of that is on the other side of morality. The image of God is a universal human truth. And anyone who dehumanizes another is on the wrong side of morality. It's only between the Kruvim that you can hear God. It's only when we meet each other that God's voice can be heard. If all I do is hear myself or people who are, identified with me in all the Venn diagrams, complete overlap, people who, I don't know, no one's the same. So maybe this is all saying that only between people can we find God more authentically. But especially when there are noticeable differences between people, when you sit facing each other, knowing that God is not found in me or in you, but between us. That's really what it is to live a holy life. It's the opposite of dehumanization. We have to be agents of humanization. We have to see the divinity in each other. We have to. There are too many active forces trying to get us to forget that. we have to be just as active, maybe even more so, more fierce, more loving, more kind, more steadfast as allies and friends, to show up and to know that only when we face each other with open wings, open arms, can we truly hear God. Because we certainly need to. So I want to bless us to make good friends, to be surprised that they are good friends, that there are people who show up, and that we should be people who show up too. These are hard times to say such a thing, which makes it even more important to reinforce it. Let's be surprised, to be seen and to see, to listen well when we face each other, and to hear God's voice even more. It's time for love. It's time for healing. Not time to be gentle necessarily, but we can be fierce and loving at the same time, just like the Kruvim. We always send our hearts to the east. Let's make an extra effort right now, friends, to also send our hearts to the people of Ukraine, who have been suffering under attack for 3 straight years. May they be safe. May they be cared for. May those who are still refugees from their homes have homes to return to. Let's send our hearts to the east. Let's love our brothers and sisters. Let's send healing to the freed hostages, dignity to those awaiting burial. I hope that you will tune in on Wednesday to the funeral for Sherry and Ariel and Kfir. I hope that you'll send extra love to Yarden. Pray for the ongoing release process to somehow bring everyone home. If you think that's a lot to pray for, you're right. But you're big enough to pray for all of it. We are. That's what love is. An unquantifiable resource that is born from the human heart. Don't give up on that. Double down. Kolon balevav penima nefesh Yehudi homia ulefatei mizrach kadima ayin letzion tzofia on lo avda tikvateinu התקווה בת שנות 2000 להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון וירושלים להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון וירושלים. Bring them home now. Am Yisrael Chai. See you tomorrow, my friends. Hopefully see you at 3:30 today.